surely this can't be legal even in Justin Trudeau's Canada, Sheila.
Well, it's even worse than that because these are based on complaints of people who are not patients of Dr. Jordan Peterson. So the college is supposed to protect patients from bad doctors while they practice. But it's not designed to protect non-patients from the thoughts and musings of doctors they've never seen. But this is where we're at. We've got 19 people in this censorship panel, the re-education panel of Jordan Peterson, that are going to submit him to some sort of examination of his public statements that don't affect anybody that he was treating. That's the very scary part here, is that these are just internet censorship busybodies, and there are no complaints, as far as I can tell, from his own patients involved in any of this.
Yeah, and Sheila, I mean, it's deja vu all over again. I mean, the way Jordan Peterson came to prominence, we go back, I believe it was some 6 years ago, University of Toronto, where he took a stand against compelled speech. They were trying to force him to call various trans people Z, zer, here, higher, all those phony baloney pronouns. And he said, no, I'm not putting up with this nonsense. He didn't bend the knee then. I don't see him bending the knee now.
No. How did these censors think this was going to end? This is, as you say, Jordan Peterson. He's enormous. And his platform, he rose to prominence. I mean, he's always been a good author and a good speaker and a good professor and a good doctor, for as best as I can tell. But he rose to prominence both in Canada and internationally, speaking out against compelled speech. He spoke at Senate hearings in the House of Commons in 2017 against compelled speech legislation, forcing people to use pronouns of other people under threat of hate crimes charges, basically. He spoke out against that. How did these gulaggers think this was going to turn out for them if once they decided they were going to come for Jordan Peterson? The man, I think, is the most preeminent speaker in the Anglosphere. I know in some places and during some periods, his books are outsold only by the Bible. So, you know, when you come for the big dog, you better have something better than hurt feelings. But as best as I can tell, that's all these people have.
And Sheila, here's what the crux of the matter is, at least for me. What does politics have to do with the practice of psychology? What I'm getting at is that Jordan Peterson could be a Marxist. Jordan Peterson could be a libertarian. That's besides the point. You judge him on his practice of psychology. I don't know of any complaints that he's received pertaining to the practice of psychology. So why does this body of psychologists, why do they find it so important to discipline this man for tweeting out Pierre Poilievre quotes and criticizing Justin Trudeau? To me, it has no relevance for the matter at hand.
Right. And we wouldn't want this to happen to a Marxist doctor. Now, I wouldn't go to a Marxist doctor for treatment. Probably not. But that's the choice of the patient, right? And if I had complaints against a Marxist doctor, it probably wouldn't be for their Marxist ideology. It would be for other things. We don't want Marxist doctors subjected to re-education either. This is like what happens here is between a doctor and a patient, and there are no patients complaining in all of this. But we've seen a lot of this happen during the course, especially of the pandemic. And that's a hypocrisy I'll get to in a second. These doctors' organizations, as I said, they were initially there to protect patients from bad doctors. So there were sort of standards, but also to protect doctors from a government overreach, right? Like they were organizations where, you know, there were standards in place, and it was kind of sometimes a restraining order from the government to protect the independence of the doctors. But right now we've seen that these organizations, they have really no interest in what's good for the patients. In fact, they are likely to censor doctors who are advocating for their patients. And we've seen that over the course of the pandemic. Doctors who thought differently about COVID were censored, had their license threatened. And now doctors and psychologists who think differently about COVID, lockdowns, politics. Now they're being censored. So these organizations, they have gone so far from their original intent where now they're just the medical enforcement arm of the Liberal Party of Canada.
Hey folks, that was an excerpt from my show, Rebel Roundup. Now, to get the full meal deal, why not go to Rebel News Plus, sign up, and never miss a Rebel News Plus show in the future.